Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're turning your journey through Batman Arkham Knight. We're going to take a look at every single Gotham City story in this game. There's, by the look of it, 40, so more than the character bios and a lot of reading. But honestly, I think I'll finish it faster because I got things to listen to. So let's get this started. The Faithful Servant. Breakfast at Wayne Manor was served at 6 p.m. and traditionally consisted of an egg white omelet, a pot of black coffee, and a pair of mild painkillers served in a small silver dish to the side of the tray. Lately, Master Bruce had taken to leaving the amulet. Today was no exception, Alfred noted, stepping out of his employer's bedroom, tray in hand. This was unlike Bruce Wayne, who had forced down bloody slabs of meat when sick rather than risk the loss of muscle mass. But Master Bruce hadn't been like himself ever since the Joker died. Alfred expected some change. Naturally, he had hoped his master might relax. Instead, Bruce attacked Gotham's criminals population with renewed intensity. When Alfred questioned him, Bruce had explained the necessity of striking while the power vacuum remained. Eminently sensible, yet Bruce's urgency seemed like that of a man running out of time. Alfred found Bruce in the Batcave. Of course, Alfred suited, sending revised specifications to Bruce for the new Lucius for the new Batmobile. Sir, Alfred ventured, given that we have no pressing leads this evening, and sundown is net for another 45 minutes, I thought I might tempt you with that remains of your breakfast. 42 minutes, Bruce kept his eyes on the black computer screen. Alfred paused for a moment, wondering what possibly could have driven the man he raised to keep secrets from him for the first time in 30 years. Very good, sir, Alfred said, before leaving the room. And then at Wonder Tower. Mr. Strange followed Ra's al Ghul out onto Wonder Tower's viewing platform. Arkham City gleamed beneath them, a peaceful patchwork of neon still. "How is our mayor?" Ra's inquired, tightly gripping the railing to steady himself. Playing his part, Strange observed. People seem quite convinced. It will be mortally repugnant to a few, but even they cannot deny the impulse. Ra's closed his eyes to wipe the slate clean. Oop. Strange had noticed the subtle glitches in his master's behavior. The professor had conducted enough experiments to recognize the symptoms of mental trauma as well when a patient was trying to mask its effects. "I wish you would allow me access to the source of your power," Strange said, beamingly. "I could help. It is here, isn't it? In the base of this tower?" Rish laughed, and suddenly Strange couldn't breathe. You think you see weakness?" Ra's squeezed. Strange felt his throat tightening, life ebbing away. "How wrong you are." Ra's released him, and Strange dropped to his knees. Sucking in air, Ra's walked back to his place overlooking the city. "We'll rid Gotham of its vermin. Nothing can stop us." Strange massaged his neck. "You think he will stand by idly while we murder thousands?" "Batman won't," Ra's replied. "But Bruce Wayne won't have any choice." Guardian Angel. To find Batman, find the injustice. "Please, God, don't hurt me." The man in the suit backed away, tossing his wallet onto the ground. His attackers closed in. One of them scooped up the wallets and fingered the notes inside. "Jackpot." The other cracked his knuckles and threw a punch, dropping the suit to his knees, holding his broken face. "Money won't save you, but he can." The ripple of taut fabric as a shadowy cape swooped down. "He'll go for the sweep." The thug was busy counting when Batman took his legs. The wallet spun into the air as the sound of his skull cracking pinballed around the alleyway. The other thug turned and charged. His style was changed, less elaborate. Batman threw his arm into a swing, hook popping the shoulder joint. Strike the vulnerable areas, ended fast. They first slammed the thug's tattooed solar plexus, stopping his body like a bolt of electricity. The longer fight, the more it hurts him. Batman stood over the unconscious men, tilted back, eyes shut, breathing hard. How can he leave them? They don't deserve to live. Azrael looked down from the rooftop. He studied Batman for long enough. He knew what Gotham needed. Divine justice. Actually, was that all of them? Did I read it all? Yeah. Homecoming. 254 days. 17 hours and 9 minutes. It seemed like a lifetime, yet still he hungered, every waking moment a test of will. He'd never truly be free from his cravings, but at least now he'd found a means to channel it all of the plan into something productive, something worthwhile. He returned to Santa Prisca broken and desperate, still reeling from his run-in with Batman in Arkham City. He was searching for solace, a fresh start, a means of making the nightmare stop. When he arrived in the slums of his homeland, he found a young boy bleeding out from a gunshot wound in the street, mother wailing by his side. Ben realized that what had really drawn him back there. Beneath the veneer of luxury resorts and spas, Brenner-Prisca was a hotbed of corruption ruled by vicious cartels, drug lords amped up on venom, embroiled in a bloody turf war that had claimed countless innocent lives. Brandon started from the bottom and worked his way up. Now, as the sun bled out over the Rhine, he admired the fruits of his labor. 12 severed heads lined up on the beach in various states of decay, the 12 most powerful drug lords on the island. His work was almost done. Just one target remained, Pena Dura, the stone fortress in which he had been born, raised, and forever corrupted. It was time to tear it all down. The trap. The trap. 3 thugs, 1 hostage. Easy. First, the guy with the gun. Barbara dropped behind the nearest Joker's groom's couch, crouched, and launched herself back up. One screamed a stick in the back of the knee to drop him. The other met the back of his skull on the way down. Next, the guy with the knife. He'd had a knife, anyway. He'd broken wrist now, a wrist she caught between both sticks and snapped when he lunged at her. She let the arm drop and swung her weapon back and over shoulders onto his head. The sad clown makeup looked perfect as he fell to the ground. And now, the mop-up. She dropped and swung a sweeping kick to meet the last thug as he charged her, sending him barreling into a wall. Easy. The hostage was crying, curled fetal with his back to her from the corner of the room. Odd for a police officer in Gotham. They've usually seen worse. It's okay, Barbara took a step towards him. It's me, Batgirl. The sobbing got worse, louder, hysterical, and then Batgirl froze. He wasn't crying at all. What's wrong, officer crooned. Aren't you going to rescue me? Not exactly. Barbara's eyes scanned for exits. Her feet took a fighting stance. Well then, said Joker, twisting around to a face until he was lounging in a bloody-stained officer's uniform on his side. Why don't you rescue Commissioner Gordon instead? Resolutions. January 1st. Happy New Year, diary. I feel melancholy. The old dates hold no magic anymore. My New Year's resolution is to find a new occasion to celebrate. January 21st. I feel reborn. Today I celebrated National Hugging Day for the first time. I went to Elliott Memorial Hospital, covered myself in infected blood, and visited the children's ward. February 2nd. Happy Groundhog Day. My new house guest and I are going to watch the stream from whatever that is together. If the Rhoda predicts an early spring, I'll let my new friend go. But if the groundhog retreats into his burrow, I'll bury my guest alive. World Environment June 5th. World Environment Day. A really important cause. I pass this message on to a class of school children by forcing them to drink ACE chemicals runoff. They won't pollute now. September 19th. Dear Diary, Happy International Talk Like a Pirate Day. Today I cut off a man's leg and nailed it to a wooden peg in his place. He couldn't walk the plank. Very disappointing. Checked on my scurvy victim, but she wasn't ready. Next year. September 21st. Happy World Peace Day. I left bombs at the Quarcy Embassy. October 29th. Halloween tempts me. I promised Batman I would be present at his end, and All Hallows Eve is the perfect time to bid farewell to him. I will make this one exception in my year of alternative celebrations. October 31st. Something Scarecrow. Dang Scarecrow. Poison Chalice. Cash lifted the framed photo out of the box and placed it on his desk. He still remembered the day he pinned it inside of his locker during his first shift at the asylum. It had been with him ever since. Nice looking family you got there, sir, the sergeant remarked, busily clearing up the previous owner's possessions from a drawer. Cash was close to telling him that it was a lucky charm, but he knew the reaction he'd get. The kid didn't know how crazy things could get. He'd soon have up as superstitious as all the rest. Besides, something was telling Cash luck might not be worth a dang around here. He'd be 5th station supervisor in as many months. The others were all gone. Assassinated. Cash knew he was putting himself in the crosshairs, tempting fate, but the commissioner had asked, and he couldn't refuse a friend. The sergeant finished packing the dead man's things just as Gordon arrived. Aaron, Jim said, offering his hand. Didn't think I'd see you tonight, Cash replied, shaking the commissioner's hand. Gordon always came down for his part. It was the introduction. Both men stepped out into the elevator onto the roof, the bastion illuminated into the night sky. You know, Cash said. We've already met. I know, Gordon said, but it's a tradition. That's another word for superstition, Cash thought. On the prowl. Want to find a weak link in the security system? Look for the man with the gun, especially when they're new in town. Poor guy didn't even know the first rule of Gotham. Selina mused. The mantra thugs from Bleak to Bowery drilled into the new recruits. Always look up. Will he know it now? Selina dragged his unconscious body behind a dumpster and slipped through a vent in Arkham Asylum's administrative building. She was late. The meeting had started. Ended, maybe. Scarecrow's voice, sonorous yet raspy, carried along the vent like a snake slithering through dry grass. Another voice replied, young, angry in disguise. Footsteps, then silence. Worthless. Selina needed more. Names, details. A dang date. Batman was more inclined to ignore the occasional heist when she had information he needed. And besides, it was fun having something to wield over him, seeing the pain, pleading expression on Gotham's apex predators' faces when they were all alone and she had the upper hand. She peeked through the vent. Scarecrow's office. No guards by the door. Good. Selina dropped down, twisting her body to land on all fours, and then an arc of electricity lashed out from the ceiling. Selina dodged it, all reflexes, and saw her attacker floating from the vent. Since when did Scarecrow have security drones? Dang it, Selina, she thought, plotting her exit over the sound alarm. Always look up. Cargo. The dozen soldiers snapped awake, gripped their semi-automatic rifles, and flicked the safe ties off. They weren't sure what it was that had them spooked. Turbulence, perhaps. The unit commander nodded toward the container, trigger finger poised. The middle box was taking up most of the airship's cargo. It must have weighed several tons, and it wasn't including what was trapped inside. The thing these men have spent several weeks tracking through marshlands on the outskirts of Gotham. Not everyone who started the mission made it. The ravaged bodies left behind unceremoniously. The mission didn't exist, and now neither did they. A plainclothes agent was reading the file, holding a handkerchief to his face to try to stem the smell of rotting flesh emanating from the container. He had only had words, photographs, patient histories. He wouldn't get to see the creature for real. A relief. The agent looked up and spotted the panicked faces. These soldiers were tired and burnt out. Last thing he needed was any accidents. Easy, boys, he yelled over the engine roar, slapping the middle prison. He ain't waking up for another month. Within the container, the tranquilizer had all but worn off. The opaque membrane withdrew across the eye. Vertical slit, shaped pupils dilated. Croc was awake, and he wanted off this airship. The mission. Clark stood on the littered sidewalk, looking up at the sign. Until now, this place had been rumored, whispered in the dark. The deacon's mission. By the sound of it, you had to take your bread with a little preaching. They could try, Clark thought. He wasn't that hungry. Inside, a couple dozen men had their head down, folding up tables and stacking towers of chairs into rows. Clark spotted a large stainless steel part and its lid ajar, the slit puffing steam. She made straight for it. His mouth hung open expectantly as he grabbed the lid. They wanted to clear that away. A hand fell on his shoulder and squeezed. But he told me you come. The voice had the benevolence only the servant of God could muster. Clark turned around. The deacon's graying hair and lined face betrayed a searing vitality. "I'd like something to eat, sir." "Please, sir," Clark heard himself. The last and only person he addressed that way was being his father. The deacon released his grip and proceeded to ladle hot soup into a bowl. "The Lord needs a strong," he proclaimed, passing it to Clark along with a spoon. The warm liquid sneaked down his throat and cooled within his belly. It felt good, better than he expected. Clark went for another spoonful. Maybe he wasn't that hungry after all. Cheap shot. A close shot with dead shot. It's kind of weird because all the names have... Yeah, there's a different name for some reason. By Jack Ryder. I guess it's a comic book thing, whatever it's called. Anyways, "Are you ready, Jack?" Batman asked, looking straight at me, one eye filled with admiration, and the other with respect. "I'm ready, Batman," I replied bravely. "Well, let's do this, Jack. Together," Batman asked really. The Dark Knight stood up from behind our cover then, as we prepared to take on the deadly assassin Deathshot together. Was I afraid? Dear reader, I was terrified, but I couldn't let it show. Batman needed me. Then I saw it, the laser sight playing like a lover's tongue across his nipple. Batman, no! I shouted dramatically. I dove forward then, knocking the Cape Crusader to the ground as the bullet whizzed past my ear. Batman was back on his feet in an instant. However, he grabbed me and pulled us both into cover behind a chimney chute in the bombed ruin of Gotham City. What now, Jack? Batman asked, his voice cracking slightly under the strain. I thought for a moment. You need to hide behind cover whenever he's looking in our direction, Batman, I explained patiently, and then tried to reach in the vent under the helipad. Batman looked at the distance between him and the sharpshooter marksman. You can do it, Batman, I said reassuringly. I know you can. It's kind of funny, because we both know that didn't happen. Contingency. Slade pushed the hunting knife along the whetstone, a smooth scrape of steel and underscoring the live combat feed. The last Cobra went offline. With a burst of radio interference, Slade shook his head. Dang amateurs. A surveillance drone was circling above Bleak Island, relaying the battle below. The night was protecting the cloudburst, and failing. Batman had just taken apart his support. Now it was just the two of them. Slade glanced at the monitor. Their heat signatures stalking each other through the streets. He ran us them along the blade. Still duel. This was torture. Forced to watch from a mobile command center. The Ace Chemical siege, the occupation, everything. Batman had taken on the entire army. He was winning. Slade didn't belong here. Observing, it was like watching someone play a video game badly, itching to pick up the controller. Contingency wasn't his style. He was better than that. But Scarecrow knew just how to sell it. He promised the soldiers an end to those nightmares. The fear that made his hands tremble. Revenge. This is what you seek, and I can give it to you. The Knight's take took a strike. Systems critical. A plum of white static erupted onto the screen. No one was making it out of that thing alive. Seconds later, the video crackled. It is time, Scarecrow announced. Batman is yours. Slade tested the blade. It was sharp enough now. Burn notice. This took a generous swig from his flask and then pushed through the heavy oak doors into Thomas Panessa Studios. Garfield, have a seat. His boss's plump red face and expanded waistline betrayed the fact that he was bankrupt, financially as well as morally. Lynn struck it to the chair. Panessa Studios as Panessa dismissed with a small talk, then began to justify the unceremonious firing of this lowly FX artist. Despite critical acclaim, the Inferno had recovered less than a quarter of its inflated budget in 6 months since its release. Such a high-profile failure, combined with increased attention from the IRS, meant the laundering millions of dollars of mob money through Panessa Studios was no longer a viable business plan. I always liked you, Linz, he said, like a veterinarian comforting an animal before pushing the plunger on a lethal injection. But the industry's different now. As a studio, we need to adapt or perish. That means we're making some tough decisions. Garfield declined the preferred cigar with a wave of his hand. He felt sick watching the greasy old something wrap his lips around a wad of dried leaves that cost 3 times his monthly salary. I'm sure a man of your intelligence knew this day would come. Garfield, I'm sure you prepared for every eventuality. Let's prepare, all right. He struck a match off the solid oak table and held it up to light the man's cigar. He met his boss's gaze for the last time and expelled a mouthful of nitroglycerin through the dancing flames. Frozen out. From fire than frozen. Warped and cold, Nora slumbered. Deep in slumber, Nora dreamed. She dreamt of Victor, not the man he was, and then the man she knew he'd become. She heard him sometimes, his new metallic voice piercing through the frozen veil of her sleep like an ice pick. She heard his curses, his muttered threats, and when whatever new therapy he was working on failed, when cells refused to divide those lines up like soldiers on parade, and carefully authored mutations lay stubbornly dormant and unresponsive genes, she heard his harsh, anguished screams. It had been gradual, this thawing of her conscience back into something alive, something that flowed liquidly from dream to memory, and couldn't even snatch in traces of the outside world. She was trapped, imprisoned in frozen flesh, but not afraid. Fear seemed impossible for her cold brain, but there was a kind of freedom in this new existence. Freedom from the Huntington's racked body she left behind. This will work, Nora, this will work. Victor talked to her most days, worked through scientific problems as if she was lab assistant, professed his love, reminiscence about the earlier months of their marriage. But the memories were distant now. Nora knew. The details became vaguer every time. She wasn't just a frozen body. Nora had long realized. She was an idealized memory, frozen in time. Was this love? Victor said he could save her. But every second's passing drew them farther apart. No, Nora, remembered love. Love was worn. Fallout. Your Honor, Gordon shouted. The man's insane. For the last time, Commissioner, we're not here to discuss the prisoner's state of mind. Judge Whistle looked across at Gordon from the parole board panel, a look Jim had seen a dozen times this morning. Please, Whistle's watery eyes were saying, don't make this any harder than it is. Gordon shot a more succinct look back. To his left, the prisoner started talking again. Come now, Your Honor. As slanderous as the Commissioner's comments are, he's only expressing his frustration at the futile nature of this so-called legal proceeding. Perhaps he doesn't understand that his presence is merely for appearance's sake. You are a decorative detective, Riddler concluded, flashing Jim a smug smile. Gordon understood all right. Thousands of prisoners, all held illegally, and then merely mirrored by Hugo Strange. The inevitably class action lawsuit had left this tedious soil-sapping exercise in its wake. Hundreds of parole hearings that only went one way. The prisoners got their freedom back, and Gordon got a signed declaration. The offender promised to be on their best behavior from here on in. Now, Riddler continued, given that our poor commissioner must endure several hundred more of these hearings, why don't you spare us the tedium of forcing him to reiterate the state's legally soiled case against me, and simply grant me the freedom to which I am entitled? The entire parole spluttered indignantly. The man's got a point, Gordon conceded as he walked out the door. Power play. No more of this grief, thought Scratch. 6 months since Joker died. Time hardly moved on, and if she couldn't move on, well, time the gang did. Scratch was smart, everybody said it, and he had a plan. Harley had one of her freaky Joker statues, the one with the television sat on the soldiers, in her room. Every night she kissed the creepy video reel of his face. Good night, right on the grinning lips. Scratch was going to put a bomb inside it, kill Harley and decapitate the old boss too. Nothing says. Put Scratch in charge like that. Harley was out, getting war with Penguin's crew. That's all they did these days, defend instead of expand. Scratch was going to change that, he thought, slipping into her room. Red and black everywhere, the curtains, the carpet, the bed, like playing cards. Harley said when she handed out the new uniforms, clubs and hearts. Joker was in the corner, grinning at him. His eyes followed Scratch around the room, interrupted by occasional static. I dare you, they said, as Scratch crept over the smiling ghost. Sorry, boss, he said, taking out the screwdriver and the small explosive charge, but I gotta do this, for the gang. Bad idea, Scratchy, Joker replied. Scratch froze, terrified. It's a bad idea, Scratchy, Joker said, same intonation as before. Bad idea, Scratchy. Scratch relaxed. She cut it together, made out of old tapes, but that meant skull cracking impact of Harley's baseball bat cut off the thought. That's interesting one. Keep your friends close. Master Bruce, you have a visitor. Bruce looked up from his position, curled up in a fetal ball on the window's ledge. He had plenty of visitors since the death of his parents, an endless stream of grown-ups who suffocated him in kindness, patting him on the head and taking in soft, patronizing voices, as if a sentence spoken at normal volume might cause the poor little orphan to detonate. Like a bomb, they'd rather leave undisturbed than risk having diffused. This wasn't one of those people. This was Thomas Elliot Tommy. The blond boy pushed past Alfred before Bruce could respond. He looked at Bruce and grinned. Thank you, Alfred, Bruce said, trying to sound formal in front of his friend. Alfred coughed awkwardly before leaving the room. It was these moments, when others were around, and he and Bruce were still learning to navigate together. Alfred reached for Bruce's hand at the funeral, only for the boy to snatch it away. Embarrassed, did he refuse to let go during the car ride home. We have to be kind to you, Tommy slumped casually down next to Bruce and fixed him. fixed him with an intense stare that mirrored Bruce's own. That's what Miss Hillsop said at school. Everyone's being kind to me, Tommy. It's boring. Tommy thought about this. I wish my parents were dead, he said eventually. Then I'd be a billionaire like you. Bruce's stunned laughter echoed around the manor's empty rooms. Wallflower. Pamela stirred from her slumber and squinted at the lone orchid on her nightstand. Conventional wisdom says that Gloria could never strive in such dry, frigid conditions. Just as the doctors had predicted, she herself would wither and die within a month of her admittance to Cecil General's intensive care unit. It had been almost 6 months. Oh my gosh, it had been almost 6, and the flowers in full bloom, while Pamela had never felt stronger or more in tune with the world around her. The orchid had been a gift from her mentor, Professor Jason Woodrue. The man of Professor's love for her, they left her to die from a toxic cocktail of better hormones. He forced her to ingest the lead they shared. Pamela's initial heartache seemed partially in sight. She realized Woodrue's parting gift was far greater than he could have never imagined. The orchid spoke to her now, the ethereal whispers of a world beyond these sterile walls, of a higher purpose, of new life. Pamela feigned sleep with the door opened, and the handsome specialist approached the bed to check on her. She thrust out an open arm, gripped the back of his neck at the inhuman strength, and pulled him in close. The man was powerless to resist as she planted a deadly kiss on his lips. Timid wallflower, Pamela Isley was no more. Poison ivy had arrived. Just Jack. Jack Ryder's weekly column, only in the Herald. Hey there, Gotham, Jack's back. I know, it's been a while, but I've been busy. Book deals, TV appearances, negotiations to syndicate this very column. But those things take time. Jack fans, too much time. Actually, and the agents never call you back, so I decided to give up on them. Besides, I already had a starring role in the televisual event of the season. Yep, that was my handsome face you saw sprouting from an immaculately tailored suit and giving evidence to the Arkham City Commission. I just want to set this record straight. Yes, I said that Arkham City was illegal. Yes, I produced documentary evidence of prisoners being abused, degraded, forced to live in squalor, and nearly killed. And yes, I said that anyone exposed to such horrors should be released and generously compensated. But let's get one thing straight, Gotham. I was talking about me. I didn't need to see that. I shouldn't have been there. I saw one guy eating his own arm when food supplies ran low. His own arm. I mean, he didn't look like he was accustomed to hot cuisine on the other side of the wall. But me, I dined well in Gotham, and I needed therapy after that. So all you losers sending me hate mail, stop it. It's not my fault the crooks got free. I just wanted Gotham City to repay its debt to me, and I'm sure you do too. Hashtag justice for Ryder. Hashtag justice Jack Ryder Gate. A fall. Batman was wrong. He had always been wrong about Joker. There was no madhouse qualified, no prison secure enough. Jason knew that now, after what he had seen tonight. Little arms, little legs, little heads, crudely, mockingly stitched together. He come straight from the kindergarten, followed a trail of innocent blood to innocent blood to Arkham Asylum. Striker switched off. Cal communication disabled. He was a ghost. That wouldn't find him until it was done. Weeping parents fighting over patchwork corpses. The sanatorium had been derelict for years, a burnt-out patches of dead earth on top, a forgotten warren of cells below. Good, Jason thought. He's already in the dirt. There was a moral line that Bruce had sworn to never cross. Jason would cross it for him. Jason had been watching a grief-stricken mother piece her son together when the kindergarten speaker system came to life. No, Robin, he thought, pushed it down. Jason pulled out from the heavy iron bars that would have once led to a lottery chute and dropped to the dark. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, Joker sang. It was a net, halfway down, that caught him. It broke with his weight, sending him tumbling out of the end of the chute into the granite floor. Jason gritted his teeth, breathed through the path. The first swing of the crowbar took out 2 teeth. The second broke his ankle. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty together again. Joker was singing. Asphyxiation. I do not allow him visitors, Warren shouted, sputtered angrily as Batman walked past. It's not a social call. Inside the cell, harsh fluorescent bulbs bounced their light off the sterile, white-potted walls. It's really you. You're here. The cell's straitjacket flung himself at the corner of the room until he was slobbering, weeping at Batman's armored boots. I'm so glad it's you, Bats, Joker sobbed. They think I'm mad. Batman kicked upwards, flipped the maniac onto his back, and brought the footbound down to pin him there. 3 dead, all children. You've been locked up here since Blackgate. Batman pushed down, ribs cracked. Tell me how. The sudden violence, the gurgling sound of Batman's roar, surprised them both. Batman backed towards the door. Appalled, suddenly freed, Joker rolled on the floor hysterical. I knew it, he giggled. I knew you cared. Batman drew his cape around himself, pushed the anger, the sudden self-disgust back down. You got out, Joker. How? Maybe I am mad. Joker scrabbled backwards, leaned against the wall. But this is the first time I'm hearing of it. He paused then, and spoke with a sickening sincerity. I didn't kill your kitties, and you don't need excuses to drop by. When Scarp returned to security, Joker was alone, grinning ear to ear. I'm in his head, Sharpie. Did I believe that? That was 5. False dawn. Gotham's no kind of place to raise a child. Those were Ellen's first words when we told her about the promotion transfer to JCPD. To say the move had put a strain on their marriage would be an understatement. The first few months were difficult, but gradually she had established roots, made new friends, warmed to life in the city. Mr. Gordon even promised to use his influence to secure their son Tyler a place at McCollum Academy. Life was good. Then Arkham City happened. Ellen's doubts resurfaced. The honeymoon period was over. He convinced her to stick it out for another year. If things didn't improve, they could move back to the family in Keystone. The promise was a gamble. He hated Keystone, as much as he hated the in-laws. And at the time, Gotham looked like it was sprawling into the abyss. But now, 9 months on, as he stood with his family among the throng of tourists on the Lady of Gotham viewing platform, he was satisfied that the gamble had paid off. There was a different feel about Gotham these days. Joker was dead, the nightmare of Arkham City was a distant memory, and crime continued to fall. Across the water, amid the glittering lanterns of Chinatown, Halloween decorations were being hoisted high above the streets. Dad, are you going to take me to the parade? Sorry, kiddo. Dad has to work, but your mother will take you, right, honey? Ellen jabbed him in the ribs, smiling. Whatever you say, Officer Owens. So that was the officer at the very beginning. Who did survive so good? Change of the heart. More guns, Mr. Wayne? said Lucius, eyeing the proposed specifications for the new Batmobile. They were in Lucius' office, Bruce's office. Technically, though Lucius spent most of the time here, Bruce had turned up dutifully for the biannual department heads meeting at Wayne Tech. Lucius had watched Bruce work the room, smiling and shaking the hands of senior technicians, biochemists, engineers, and software security experts, making just enough informed conversations with Lucius' chief systems engineer to impress yet not shock her. And then he and Bruce had retired here. Lucius doubted anyone else that had mentioned Wayne favoring his right leg as it recovered from whenever he had ejected it to the right before. Can you do it? Bruce asked. All the easy charm from the meeting room was gone. It would seem like unfriendliness to a casual observer. Lucius thought, but it was the opposite. Bruce did his friends, the people he trusted, the honor of not pretending. He just smiled. It wouldn't be easy. Wayne Tech had been out of arms industries for a while. Could claim the guns for testing materials when he had made it a order, he reasoned, and do all the prototyping alone. Why the change of heart, Mr. Wayne? Lucius answered, always the pragmatist, had longed the campaign for a more offensively equipped Batmobile, just in case. Bruce had resisted him until now. But ever since Joker died, his employer had been not aggressive, exactly. Lucius could not quite identify the change. Just in case, Bruce said, as he left the room. Down the rabbit hole. The shears chipped in rusted blades squeaked open, narrowly missing the necks that collect a soft clump of blonde hair. There, pretty, don't move an inch. These bolted daggers smite more than a pinch. In return, a whimper stifled behind the thick duct tape. Hatter's grubby fingers gripped and squirmed around the cutter's oversized ears, one in each hand. Squinting, his tongue curled up in concentration, a pile of butchered wigs lay tossed behind him. This was the last one, and it had to be a success. In for a penny, in for a pound. Let's hope it's just for hair that falls to the ground. Like a crocodile's bite, the shears clapped shut, followed by the thubbed wobble of a stool. as Hatter hopped down to the floor to gog his work. Frabjous, what a win! Now for the hairs on the chinny chin chin. Hatter placed the shears down and picked up the cutthroat razor, delicately fanning out the blades as he turned to face his terrified creation. Queen-like and flanked by a drove of defiled mannequins, he couldn't get over how well the brute just fit the man's slender frame. But that was why he chose him. He'll do for now, Hatter thought, until someone better came along. Someone just like his Alice. White noise. Dr. Court Langstrom surveyed the miracle of evolution displayed on the table before him. Decimus rotundus, the common vampire bat. It was perhaps the most magnificent creature he had ever studied, close beside Francine, of course. Langstrom dialed up the volume in the sound system and shut his eyes. Letting Rain's Third Symphony swell in his ear, the music conjured memories of happier times with his beautiful wife, before his diagnosis, before the rot set in. The Titanias has been subtle at first, like the low hum of a refrigerator in another room, a mildly irritating whine he couldn't quite place yet, couldn't quite ignore. As the weeks wore on, the news grew overwhelming, until Kirk could hear nothing else unless he concentrated hard enough. The doctor's words, however, hadn't been clearer and louder. Kirk's affliction was rare, chronic, and irreversible. The thought of never enjoying his favorite symphonies again was agonizing, but it was Francie's voice he would miss the most, the subtle inflection she adopted when she teased him, and the way she laughed, as though the little girl inside her had never grown up. Kirk was prepared to let all that go without a fight. He was a man of science, for crisis. And the science would find a way. The answer, Kirk knew, was staring up at him and from the dissection table. Legacy. Bruce gripped his father's hand and the elevator rocketed forward. Confined spaces still made him anxious, but his father provided comfort, just as he did on all those nights. Bruce would wake up screaming, paralyzed by fear, relieving the moment he found himself trapped inside the dank, bat-infested cave beneath the grounds of the manor. He breathed with a sigh of relief, and when the elevator finally slowed to a halt and the doors opened into Thomas Wayne's plush new office at the summit of Wayne Tower. Take a look, son, his father said, leading Bruce to the vast windows overlooking Gotham's smog-shrouded skyline. The boy pressed his palm against the cold glass and felt a dizzying rush as he gazed down at the miniature city below. Gotham's been good to us, Bruce, and we have a responsibility to give it something back. This tower is the beginning of our legacy, a legacy I hope you'll continue long after I'm gone. Bruce looked up to meet his father's eyes. The thought of losing him had never crossed the young boy's mind. And suddenly Bruce was back in that cave, alone, the piercing screech of bats filling his ears. Prodigal. Nightwing grappled to the warehouse roof and secreted himself in darkness. He chased the truck here on foot, and it was the technique Bruce had taught him to control his breathing. A plummet of streaming breath could easily give away his position to the guards through that skylight. At that, they sounded very observant. I hate this stinking place. Give me Gotham any day, the first thug said. Yeah, sooner you get back there, the better, his buddy replied. Nightwing was well aware of his adopted city's shortcomings, but he just didn't need to hear it from these goons. He considered taking them out, seeking further inside. No, best do this clean. Still, no way we get away with something like this without Batman around. Who we gotta worry about? Nightwing? He's like a baby Batman. Two electrified scramble sticks bounced up and struck the base of both skulls, cutting their laughter short. The nerve was as raw now as the day he left the manor. Bruce had sent away like a parent packing a teenage son off to college. He wasn't grown up yet, not in Bruce's eyes. Looking down the angle glass, scores of men were busy at work. Hundreds of crates, thousands of guns. The operation was bigger than he thought. It was heading back to Gotham. You missed the one, Bruce. You remember this one, Bruce. The college kid was going home. Oh. Messing up. Real masquerade. Dad and something Bruce Wayne. Barbara walked through Wayne Manor, dropping the mask and cape from her masquerade ball outfit. She should have guessed the other people would have had the bad idea too. Not that it mattered. Whatever she wore still be 20 years younger than everybody there. Gee, she'd rather Dad started dating again than drag her to these things. At least she had her laptop. Thank goodness. She just needed Just need an access point that wasn't buried beneath 15 layers of paranoid rich guy encryption. The library, maybe? Barbara pulled back a huge oak door and slipped into the room. Her shattered computer on the desk. Dang it, we're not all billionaires, Bruce. Some of us need to check. We haven't been outbid on that new pair of extremist sticks. In fact, Barbara decided, didn't rich guys like Wayne owe people like her a little unauthorized access from time to time? She used the programming she had written to crack GCPD's network. The time Dad left her sitting in an interview room during Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. It was fast, and it found hidden networks too. Not that Bruce Wayne needed many of. Was that entrance 6? The signal was strong. Close by. It was stronger than the wireless library. In fact, what the heck? Barbara thought. She tore its defenses apart. She felt it before she heard anything. A cold gust of air as the bookcase behind her disappeared. Maybe how she got the thing. Payback. Penguin yelped as his foot broke through the southern floorboard. Moments later, one of his bodyguards burst into the room, brandishing a pistol. I screamed. He saw Penguin trying to extricate himself. Boss, what's wrong? What does it look like? The bodyguard scrambled to find the words. He hoped it wasn't a trick question. Never mind, Penguin barked. Just help me. Holstering his gun, the bodyguard heaved Penguin free and started brushing the watery pulp from his trousers. Get it out, Penguin snapped, finding his balance against the windowsill. Out there, looming above, Gotham's latest monstrosity, Wayne Plaza. This was an old man's study, Penguin had proclaimed. It'll kill him if he had seen the poxy thing day and night. Caldecott Manor had been derelict for years, left to rot, in Penguin's mind just the way Bruce Wayne had wanted it, a permanent reminder of defeat. The bodyguard was tugging at a strip of wallpaper. So I guess we're waiting for the compensation, huh? Not likely, Penguin scooted back to the broken floorboard, dropped to his knees, and plunged his arm into the hole. You think I'm waiting around for Gotham City to cough up? You got another thing coming. With that, he pulled out a yellowing wad of paper, the deeds of it to a company operating out of Bloodhaven, North Refrigeration. Penguin pocketed his ace and lit a cigar. Don't count the Caldecotts out yet, Mr. Wayne. Dollatron. Mr. O'Neill staggered into the spotlight, alone, gripping a briefcase. Beyond the harsh light, the depths of the circus tents were a black void. He squinted, trying to focus. His sleep-deprived mind was playing tricks. He thought for a moment he could see an audience. Welcome, a voice boomed operatically. The spotlight shifted. There he was, pink-masked man who had summoned him. The professor, standing proudly behind a small boy, his blood-tinged finger drumming those delicate shoulders. A pained, murmurous sound came from the child, muffled through a plain white face mask. At its edge, a shoreline of weeping, fused flesh, his salted slug of a tongue writhing in the mouth slit. The horror wasn't unimaginable. It was there in front of him. It was fact. Just as he was a parent, and this was his son, butchered and transformed. Oda's stomach exploded and bent him double, retching out into the straw-bedded ground. Daddy Man is upset, whined the professor. Daddy Man not pleased with our work. He lose a terrifying squeal. The young boy moaned like a busted instrument. I've got money. O'Neill wiped the file from his mouth, then popped the briefcase and threw it to the ground. Wads of green packed tight. Give me my son, please. The professor shook his head. Not your son now, my Dollatron. Before O'Neill could fathom the meaning of that word, something caught his eye. There in the void, they were being watched. Faces shuffled closer. Plain white masks, dozens of them, encircled sons, mothers, fathers, once like him. Visiting hours. Prison. The irony wasn't lost on Quincy Sharp, but that didn't mean he appreciated it. Quincy cried on the horror-cramped bed on his cell, small, sterile cell, longing for the splendor of the city hall. He wished for his master was here. Dr. Hugo Strange had awoken Quincy, led him to a higher slate of awareness, made him mayor of Gotham. The therapy, the drugs, the loss of free will, a fair price for such a gift. In return, Quincy had defended Strange through both trials. Even now, he clutched onto Strange's remaining secrets, dear mementos of a parted friend. It's okay, Quincy, heard Strange say. I'm here. Hugo? Quincy asked, wiping his tears on a cheap Arkham City jumpsuit the guards made him wear. There he was, Dr. Hugo Strange, with his radiant white lab coat and paternal smile. "Quincy, my servant, my friend," Hugo said. "We don't have much time." And Quincy was crying with joy. "How, master? How did you—" "Psychology, Quincy. Science. I'm being a suggestion, etched into your subconscious by my living self." The therapy, Quincy realized. Hypnosis, the drugs. "Stay with me, master, please." Quincy tried to grab hold of a phantom hand. "I cannot," Strange said, looking benevolently down at Quincy, stroking his hair from a touch the prisoners couldn't feel. "But there is one last service you could perform for me. Anything, Hugo, please." "First, remove the sheets from your bed, Quincy, and tie it to the light fixture on the ceiling." Yeah. Figure that out. The demon's head. The messenger dropped down to the puddled streets, and Strady crouched in shadow, her hand resisting the hilt of a katana. Caution was in it, trained into every sinew and fiber of her body. She waited for the drunken couple to stagger past and approach her canvas. A wall of decaying posters. She unfolded the stencil and held it in place. A small nozzle concealed in her wrist released a precious spray of black paint. With a few waves of her hand, the image was complete. He would join the others. He had just spent the night emblazoned on Gotham's walls. Most people would think it was just another work of art. They wouldn't know of the war that raged, the war to bring them back, to resurrect Ra's al Ghul. The air whistled. Instinct turned to her head as Blaze Gray's skin embedded itself in the center of the dripping insignia. The assassin stepped out of her throwing stance and threw a sword from her back. "You openly defy the League of Assassins? The penalty is death." Wiping the blood from her cheek, the messenger faced her enemy. There is no league without him. That is the truth. Surveying her surroundings, the assassin approached. "You will not find his body." "What makes you think we're still looking?" The messenger unsheathed her katana. "The demon's head will live again." Social outcast. "Why do you attack me? Attack Batman. He is based. You are a something." Riddler deleted the email and all the others like it, as prickly hot anger and shame squirmed through his insides. No point denying it. #CrusaderGate had been a disastrous social media campaign. He couldn't understand it. It seemed like the internet's idiotic and easily roused rabble could froth itself to a full fat cappuccino over a frenzy over white knights, but offered up a dark one on a plate, and you got soy lattes worth of indignation. At best, they didn't understand what Batman had done. The memories rise up like bile. Riddler's back in Arkham City. Batman places an explosive hat, Riddler's own invention, on his head. Prison would march in endless circles, laced the device detonates. It's hours before Riddler realizes the trick, that the explosives have been diffused. Having borne witness to this shame, the spirit was taken now, yet Riddler paused. He still had electrical burns from the last time he had angrily ripped out 128 gigs of RAM from a motherboard. His search for a hammer concluded when another email arrived. The owner of Ingamit Holdings, Ltd., Gotham City Council hereby approves your purchase of the disused sewerage and water processing facilities beneath the city. For the first time in months, Edward smiled. Critter. Roach wrenched against his restraints and watched the beetle skitter across the Scarecrow's gloved hands. He wasn't sure what made him sicker, Scarecrow's creepy new face, or the rocking of the darn cargo container they were hidden inside. Joker would find him, surely. They couldn't have gone far from the steel mill. "Fascinating creatures, aren't they?" Scarecrow said. "So small." Crane was holding a bug by one of its legs. Now, as the other 5 limbs scowled out of the air, a wave hit the boat, and the poor thing swung back and forth. No warning colors, either. He dropped the bug to the floor, and scowled towards Roach, who fought back to the urge to stamp on it. He didn't want to look afraid. This might be the guy in the cargo ship that we find in Arkham City. "Do they want their prayers to fall for it?" Scarecrow asked, reaching another insect crept across his palm to sink their teeth into this fragile shell. Scarecrow made a fist, crunching the insect in his hand. "The beast that does so will regret it," Scarecrow explained, wiping the mashed up insect into a glass breaker. "Not through sickness or death," he added the chemicals in the beaker now, muddling the mixture into a greenish-black sludgy cocktail, "but through the hallucinations of this creature's toxins." toxic secretions caused. They're the beating of their overworked heart, the adrenaline coursing through their bloodstream through fear. He turned to Roach now, the beaker in one hand, a funnel in the other. My toxin failed me at Arkham. Together we will ensure that never happens again. Lab Rat. I think I'm actually going to read these last 6 in the next episode, so this will be the first part, and then I'll do the last 6 in the other part. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Ciao.